Come join us inside the sanctuary, everyone at the Mother's Room. Thank you all for coming and happy Sabbath. Welcome to the Young Adult Sabbath School. Before we get started, let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this Sabbath day. Thank you for bringing us all here early for Sabbath school. Please be with those who are still on their way. In your name we pray. Amen.
Happy Sabbath, church.
Happy Sabbath.
For our first song, we will sing There is Sunshine in My Soul Today, hymn number 470. There is sunshine in my soul today, more glorious and bright than clouds in any earthly sky. For Jesus is my light. Oh, the sunshine, blessed sunshine, when the peaceful, happy moments roll, when Jesus shows his smiling face, there is sunshine in the soul. There's music in my soul today, a carol to my King. Jesus listening can hear the songs I cannot sing. Oh, there's sunshine, blessed sunshine, when the peaceful, happy moments roll, when Jesus shows his smiling face, there is sunshine in the soul. There's springtime in my soul today, for when the Lord is near, the dove of peace sings in my heart, the flowers of grace appear. Oh, there's sunshine in the soul, blessed sunshine in the soul, when the peaceful, happy moments roll, when Jesus shows his smiling face, there is sunshine in the soul. There's gladness in my soul today, hope and praise and love, for blessings which he gives me now, for joys laid up above. Oh, there's sunshine in the soul, blessed sunshine in the soul, when the peaceful, happy moments roll, when Jesus shows his smiling face, there is sunshine in the soul.
For our next song, let us open our hymnals to hymn number 422, Marching to Zion.
Come we that love the Lord, and let our joys be known. Join in beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Then let of Zion yields 1,000 sacred sweets before we reach the heavenly fields. Before we reach the heavenly fields, or walk the golden streets, or walk the golden streets. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Then let our songs abound and every tear be dry. We're marching through Emmanuel's ground. We're marching through Emmanuel's ground. The fairer worlds on high, to fairer worlds on high. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. The next song will be We Gather Together, hymn number 8. This is our opening song, so shall we all stand? We gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. He chastens and hastens His will to make known. The wicked oppressing now cease from distressing. Sing praises to His name. He forgets not His own. Beside us to guide us, our God with us joining, ordaining, maintaining His kingdom divine. So from the beginning, the fight we were winning. The Lord was at our side. All glory be thine. We all do extol Thee, the leader triumphant, and pray that Thou still our defender wilt be. Let Thy congregation escape tribulation. Thy name be ever praised. O Lord, make us free.
Let us all bow down our heads for a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity that we are able to come here and worship you. Thank you for the rest day. And Lord, please bless us and guide us as we worship you today. Please help us to be able to praise you. And Lord, thank you for all the blessings that you gave us. Please forgive us in our sins. Christ, and we pray. Amen.
Good morning and happy Sabbath once again. I hope all of you had a good week. It's nice to see all of you here for Sabbath School. So, our program will be led by the young adults. Thank you, Praise Team and Eden. Now we will be rendered with the mission story by Vanessa.
Good morning and happy Sabbath. Our mission story this Sabbath morning is entitled Angels in the Storm, and it reads Annie Pama was raised in a Seventh day Adventist home in the South Pacific islands of New Caledonia. But she left the church at the age of 16 and moved in with her boyfriend Leonce. Soon they had 2 children. Leonce drank. He often came home intoxicated, and inevitably a major argument followed. Sometimes he hit the young children. One evening, Annie heard Leonce yelling as he walked up the hill to their house outside New Caledonia's capital. She realized that he was drunk. A light rain was falling. Weather forecasters had predicted that Cyclone Erika would batter New Caledonia that night and urged people to stay indoors. Annie didn't want to be trapped at home with a drunken, violent man. She grabbed her 3-year-old daughter, Morgan, and 8-month-old son, Leonce Jr., and thrust them in the car. Sliding behind the wheel, she sped away. Annie drove until the needle on the fuel tank showed empty. Parking near a tree, she was unsure about her whereabouts, but certain that this was the safest place in the storm. A fierce wind whipped the car, and a chill swept the interior. Annie realized that she hadn't brought warm blankets. She looked over at her children. They were sound asleep after the long drive. She remembered God for the first time in years. God, if you exist, I want you to look after my children and me tonight, she said. A deep weariness overwhelmed her. She leaned back the driver's seat and looked up out the driver's side window. Then she blinked hard and looked again. To her astonishment, the clouds rolled back and the heavens opened. She trembled in fright as she stared upward. Thousands of angels were walking busily back and forth in the heavens. She craned her neck, hoping to see God's throne. Then the heavens closed, and a ladder extended from the sky to the car. It resembled a giant rope ladder. 3 angels descended the ladder. They were bright white, whiter than any white that Annie had ever seen. She couldn't see their faces clearly, only that they were tall, had wings, and brightly shone with a white light. One angel stood in front of the car and extended his giant wings, reaching to the back of the car. The 2 other angels stood on each side of the car, also covering it with their wings. Annie was terrified and shocked with fear. Then she felt the car gently being rocked like a mother rocks a baby cradle. A pleasant warmth filled the interior. Abruptly, Annie's fright vanished and she felt a sense of peace. Her eyes grew heavy and she slipped into a deep sleep. Annie awoke to the sound of birds chirping. Looking out the window, she saw the ladder descend again from the sky. The angels folded their wings and ascended the ladder. As the angels left, Annie began to shake, not from fear but from cold. The warmth had left the car. As the enormity of what had happened sank in, Annie realized that her prayer had been answered in a remarkable way. She immediately gave her heart to Jesus. I will never go back to the worldly life again, she prayed. I promise to live for you. Somehow, Annie had enough fuel in the car to drive to her mother's house. Her mother, who opposed her boyfriend, had refused to help her for years, welcomed her for the first time with open arms. She provided money for fuel. Later at home, Annie found that the house had emerged from the cyclone untouched. She tore down pictures of Bob Marley and cannabis from the walls, collected her jewelry, and threw them into the fire. The flames were still burning when Leonce returned from work. Seeing his puzzlement, Annie explained that she had given her heart to Jesus. Then Leonce asked about the previous night. "Where were you and the children?" he said. "I came home and found it empty." Annie described how she had heard him yelling drunkenly and fled to avoid a fight. Leon shook his head slowly. "That wasn't me," he said. "I didn't drink yesterday." Annie kept her promise to serve God. She married Leonce and was rebaptized. She also became a deaconess at the Bethany Seventh-day Adventist Church, a position that she has held for about a decade. Leonce, after hearing the angel story, put aside his violent ways, and Annie is praying for his baptism. Their children, now teenagers, can't believe that they were part of such a remarkable night. They wish that they could experience something similar today. Annie tells them that they can. "You have to keep a relationship with God and talk to Him," she says. "Then He also will reveal Himself to you." Thank you for your 13th Sabbath offering 3 years ago that helped build 2 children's Sabbath school classrooms on Mare, an island in New Caledonia. Amen.
And now we will be blessed by a special number by 2 beautiful ladies, Gabby and Shine.
Good morning. Happy Sabbath, church. It warms our hearts to be here this morning, and this morning we sang to my Lola and my mom who's taking care of Grandma, and they were brought to tears, and Grandma said we should smile because it's better. The song is entitled Glory, and one day we will witness God's glory in its fullness. That is our hope. One day eyes that are blind will see you clearly, and one day all who deny will finally believe. One day hearts made of stone will break in pieces, and one day chains once unbroken will fall down at your feet. So we wait for that one day. Come quickly, we want to see your glory. Every knee falls down before thee, every tongue offers you praise, with every hand raised, sing you glory to you and unto you only we'll sing. Glory to your name. One day voices that lie will all be silenced, and one day all that's divided will be whole again. One day death will retreat and wave its white flag, and one day love will defeat the strongest offers you praise with every hand raised, singing glory to you and unto you only we'll sing. Glory to your name. We don't know the day or the hour or the moments in between, but we know the end of the story when we'll see your glory. Every knee falls down before thee, every tongue offers you praise with every hand raised, singing glory to you and unto you only we'll sing. Glory to your name. One day.
Thank you so much, ladies, for that wonderful music. Good morning and happy Sabbath, church. So, I'm here to summarize our lesson for this week. Uh, okay. So the title of our lesson for this week is entitled "The Least of This," and it can be found in Matthew 25 verse 40, which says, "And the king will answer and say to them, Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of this my brethren, you did it to me." So how did Jesus like in this verse or in our lesson for this week, it teaches us like Jesus ministry when he was here on earth, on how we should treat other people, how we should treat the needy, and how we should treat especially the poor people. And it says here, Jesus' teaching is practical, focus on what it means to live as a follower of God. As such, we can see that Jesus urges us towards act of justice, kindness, and mercy, like those that Jesus himself did while here on earth. So we can see that Jesus or Christ urges us towards acts of kindness, like those Jesus did while he was still here on earth. So if we follow his example, we too can minister for other people. And it says here, in Jesus' description, the kingdom of heaven is a reality that we can be part of, even now. It is a way of life that functions with a different set of priorities and values and morals than are found in earthly kingdoms. Moreover, it says here, Jesus' teachings set out the blueprint for this kingdom, and it includes a strong focus on how we serve God, and in serving him, how we are to relate to others. So it says here, serving others or caring for their needs and uplifting others are ways of how we can directly please and render our service to the Lord. Moving on Tuesday's lesson, Monday, introducing the Sermon on the Mount. So Jesus' long sermon or longest sermon or collection of teachings is the Sermon on the Mount, which can be found on Matthew 5 verse 2 to 16, as you all are familiar with. It's the Beatitudes. So along with the deep spiritual application of these words, we must not miss the practical reading of them as well. He or Jesus also talked about righteousness, translated as justice in some Bible versions, humility, mercy, peacemaking, and purity of heart. So Jesus also urged his disciples, his 12 disciples, to be a salt and light in the world. So when used appropriately, salt and light are to make a difference in the context in which they are added. So basically, when we're cooking something, or basically most of you guys cook, or most of us do know how to cook. So when cooking, we needed some flavor, right? So basically, we needed some salt or sugar. So in our lesson for this week, Jesus teaches us to be the salt of the world, or to be the salt of this earth. And it says here, salt brings out flavors as well as preserves the food. The preserves the food it is added to. So it is the symbolic of the good that we should be for those around us. So similarly, when it comes to the light, it says we should be the light and the salt of this earth. So it says here, the light pushes back the darkness, revealing obstacles and hazards, making a house or safe or city safer, and providing point to navigate by, even some distance away. So as what I've said a while ago, salt adds value to the food. Same with our being as a person. And it symbolizes, or as what I've said, the salt symbolizes our value as a person or as individual. And on the other hand, the light symbolizes our character, or it symbolizes the goodness in us. Because the light should be shown, or the light must be seen among us in this dark world. Both this salt and light symbols points us to the responsibility of disciples to influence and improve the lives of those around us. So we are salt and light when we live when we live lives that burn appropriately, have purity of heart, practice humility, show mercy, make peace, and endure oppression. Moving on Mondays, when we consider the teaching of Jesus, it is worthwhile to keep in mind that the people he was talking to and the circumstances in which they lived. So most were common people, living under the imperial rule of the Roman Empire, but some were the Jewish rulers and religious leaders. So as you can notice, even before Jesus' times, he didn't dwell, or he didn't mingle with rich people, but rather he mingled with the poor, the most oppressed, the needy. Basically, Jesus' ministry here on earth teaches us the same way that we ourselves should not focus on the earthly things that can be found here, but rather we should focus, or we focus ourselves on the needy, on the most unprivileged person here on earth. And it says here, the scenarios Jesus describes were common experiences for many of us, his listeners. So they were often violently assaulted by their superiors or masters. They were often indebted and lost their property to the landlords and lenders. So this statement refers to the Jew people before. Jesus taught the people to respond with integrity, to treat the oppressors better than they deserve, and by doing so, to resist the loss of their humanity. So Jesus summarized all of the law and the prophets, all of the sacred writings we often describe as the Old Testament, in a simple principle that has come to be known as the Golden Rule. So as we all know, the Golden Rule is, it says here, so in everything do others what you have them do to you. It can be found in Matthew 7, verse 12. Next, on Tuesday, the Good Samaritan. On Luke 10:25-27, the lawyer who questioned Jesus offered the standard summary of the Old Testament, commands for a living of a life acceptable to God. So it says there, love the Lord with all your heart. Jesus had already sought to expand his followers' understanding of this term, urging that not only should they love their neighbors, but they should do good to everyone. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. But when an expert in religious law sought to test Jesus, he fell back on the much debated question: so who is really my neighbor, or who is my neighbor? In response, Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan. But the ultimate response to the lawyer's question was not to define the neighbor terminology, or that word neighbor there. But Jesus instead said, in effect, go and be a neighbor to anyone who needs our help. So, technically, our neighbor is not just a person who's close by to us, or who's nearby to us, but the neighbor that Jesus refers is the neighbor who needs our help, or any person or any individual, any human being that needed our help. So those are our neighbors, or they are our neighbors. Moving on. The story of the Good Samaritan illustrates the nature of true religion, for it shows no systems, no creeds, but rather it disregards those and just doing good to others. So it says there, the story of the Good Samaritan uh, is a clear example, or a perfect example on how we should dwell with other people. Because as you all know, the story of the Good Samaritan, it's like the Jew and the Gentile, right? But still, the Samaritan helped that people, or he was able to help that particular person without knowing what kind of say genre, what kind of norms, or what kind of people he or she that person is. But rather, he just helped him without or disregarding what kind of people he was, or that person is. On Wednesday, in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, which is in Luke 16, verse 19 to 31, Jesus contrasts the lives of two men, one rich and one desperately poor. So it was expected that the rich would be generous in sharing a little of their wealth to alleviate the suffering. So, drawing from popular afterlife imagery of Jesus' day, the story of the rich man and Lazarus teaches that the choices we make in this life matter for the next one. So, how we respond to those who seek or need our help is one way our choices and priorities are demonstrated. I'll just like to reiterate how we respond to those who seem or who need our help is one way our choices and priorities are demonstrated. So Jesus called us to seek God's kingdom first and share the blessings we receive with others. So on Thursdays, another occasion when Jesus was asked a question and gave an answer quite different from what might have been anticipated is found in the sermon recorded in Matthew 24 and 25. So the disciples came to Jesus and asked about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the time of Jesus' return. So when you refuse to help others, you were doing it to Jesus. How we treat other people is how we treat the Lord. Or basically, how you treat your neighbor, how you treat other people, how you treat your mom, your dad, your coworker, your colleagues, or whoever it is. It just shows how you treat Jesus or how you treat the Lord. So this is connected with the questions that began the teaching as a picture of the final judgment. So throughout Matthew 24, Jesus presented more direct answers to the disciples' questions, giving signs and warnings about the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of ages. But he emphasized the need to keep watch and live well in light of the promise of his second coming. So in the first part of Matthew 25, the story of the wise and foolish virgins urged the need for preparation for an unexpected or delayed return. The story of the three servants introduces the need to live well and productively while waiting. Then the parable of the sheep and goats is much more specific about the task God's people should be busy with. So Jesus' statement that when we serve others, we are doing it to Him should transform all our relationship and attitudes. As what I've mentioned a while ago, when we serve others, we are closely doing it, or we are closely serving the Lord or Jesus. So Jesus would like us to share the opportunity to share to other people. So Jesus' ministry here on earth is to serve, not to be served. So we always have to keep that in mind, that when Jesus Christ went down, or when Jesus Christ uh, came here on earth, he was not a king, he was not a master, but instead of being served, he served other people. So that alone teaches us the humility that we ourselves should rest upon, or we ourselves should practice. That even how wealthy you are, how popular you are here on earth, but follow Christ's example, that he's already the king, king of kings, the lord of lords, but still he was able to minister, and still he was able to become a servant to other people. And lastly, on Friday's lesson, Christ tears away all the wall of partition, the self-love, the dividing prejudice of nationality, and teaches a love for all the human family. So he lifts man from the narrow circle that their selfishness prescribes. He abolishes all territorial lines and artificial distinctions of society. He makes no difference between neighbors and strangers, friends and enemies. God teaches us to look, or God teaches us to look at every needy soul as our neighbor. So the standard of the golden rule is the true standard of Christianity. So anything short is a deception. So in conclusion, or in summary of our lesson for this week, or to sum it up, how we treat our neighbor is how we treat, or how we treat our neighbor, how we treat other people, and how we treat the needy depicts how we truly love Christ. Because true service is not based on religion, tribe, norms, but rather helping others regardless of those terms that I've mentioned a while ago. And in summary, it says here, Jesus' teaching set out a different way of living for those who are citizens and agents of the kingdom of God. So Jesus Christ's ministry while he was here on earth set out a perfect example on how we should treat our neighbors, emphasizing that we human beings should love, to show love. Sorry, that we human beings should show love, compassion, and mercy to others while waiting for his soon return. So, in conclusion, or rather to make it short, we should treat others fairly. We should not treat them like unfair with regards to their social status in life, or with regards to whatever they are or their situation in life is. But rather, as what I've said, we should focus more on Christ's ministry here on earth, because he himself, he did not choose the most wealthy people. He didn't choose the rich people. He did not dwell on the most popular people on this earth, but rather he focused on the most needy people, or on the most unprivileged person here on earth. So as we Christians, as we push through and as we go along on this earth, may we all be blessed, and may we all follow Christ's example as what he did, that we should always help the needy with regards to whatever their social status or physical capabilities are. Again, happy Sabbath.
Okay, let's all separate into our Sabbath School classes and do a brief Sabbath School discussion.